World War II and Hitler's Hope. The Vatican was so appreciative of being recognized as a full partner that it asked God to bless Hitler's right. John Willard told him. When Benito Mussolini became Italy's prime minister in 1922, he immediately began referring to his regime as the Holy Roman Empire. In 1929, he signed a pact with the Vatican, making Roman Catholicism the only state-recognized religion in fascist Italy. This agreement, known as the Lateran Treaty, delighted Pope Pius VI, who spoke of Mussolini as a man sent by Providence. The treaty also pleased Cardinal Eugenio Pacelli, who in February 1930 became the Vatican Secretary of State, and would later become Pope Pius VII. The Lateran Treaty also caught the attention of another rising authoritarian in Europe, Adolf Hitler. The Second World War, which began 10 years later, marked the apex of the sixth resurrection of the Holy Roman Empire. Today, there is no shortage of facts and figures about World War II, and no lack of research and books by intelligent historians deciphering all this information. Bookstores and online stores overflow with books detailing the causes of the war, the scale of the devastation, the attempted genocide of Europe's Jews, and many other aspects of this history. Despite all the attention, there remains a common blind spot among many contemporary historians. When it comes to World War II, we've studied the critical contributions made by the Vatican and various Catholic figures to the endeavors of Charlemagne, Otto the Great, and Napoleon. We've seen how the Vatican has participated in nearly all of Europe's bloodiest, most destructive conflicts. Consider this history in the context of the Second World War, and an inevitable question comes to mind. Did the Vatican condone and support Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany during the war? Hitler and the Vatican. Just days after Mussolini signed the Lateran Treaty in February 1929, Adolf Hitler praised the agreement in an article in Völkische Beobachter, the newspaper of the Nationalist Socialist Germany Workers' Party. Hitler held no political office at this time, but subsequent events revealed that he was already anticipating the day when he would become a sort of German Mussolini, with the power to negotiate his own concordance with the Vatican. Like Charlemagne and the emperors of the Holy Roman Empire before him, Hitler knew he needed the support of the Vatican if he was to exercise full control over Germany, and eventually Europe and the world. Robert G. L. Waite, in his book The Psychopathic God, Adolf Hitler recited a telling statement made by Hitler. Above all, I have learned from the Jesuit order. Hitler's personality and leadership were greatly influenced by Catholic Jesuits. Certainly the oath of direct obedience to the Führer was strikingly reminiscent of the special oath that Jesuits swore to the Pope. Waite wrote, moreover, Hitler spoke of his elite SS who wore the sacred symbol and dressed in black as a society of Jesus. He also ordered SS officers to study the spiritual exercises of Ignatius of Loyola for training in the rigid discipline of the faith. Adolf Hitler learned a lot from the Vatican and the way it operates. But Hitler didn't merely borrow a few practices from the Catholic Church, like his Holy Roman Empire predecessors. He relied on the Vatican for moral and spiritual support and protection as he pursued his grim and lofty ambitions. The history is incredible and powerfully condemning. During the 1920s, both Pope Pius VI and Eugenio Pacelli devoted a lot of attention to Germany as it recovered from the World War I. Pacelli was an archbishop at the time and the Vatican's primary nuncio to Germany between 1917 and 1929. He was stationed in both Bavaria and Berlin. Following the war, the Vatican was extremely concerned that Soviet communism would infiltrate Europe and begin to undermine Christianity, just as it had so many times in the past. The Vatican needed an instrument with which it could defend both itself and Catholic Europe. Adolf Hitler was young and inexperienced, but there was something unique and special about him. Pius VI and Pacelli realized early that he could be just the man they needed. Archbishop Pacelli probably did more than anyone else outside of Germany to bring Hitler to power. He endorsed the nationalist Nazi Catholic coalition that ushered Hitler into German chancellorship. He then directed the German Catholic Center Party and other German parliamentarians to vote for the Enabling Act, which gave Hitler dictatorial power. This history is recorded in Hitler's Pope, a best-selling book by John Cornwell. A devout Catholic, Cornwell first set out to write the book about Pope Pius VII after becoming upset with allegations that Pius supported Hitler and the Third Reich. Cornwell was given access to the Vatican's archives while he researched for his book. Why not? The man intended to write a book defending the Vatican, but after discovering the facts, Cornwell's opinion changed. The faithful Catholic historian was shocked and astounded by what he read. The critics of Pius VII were right. In fact, they were worse than many knew. After Pacelli moved from Bavaria to Rome in February 1930, he began spending weeks at a time in the company of Monsignor Ludwig Kasch, a Catholic priest and the leader of the German Catholic Center Party. During their time together, these two men brainstormed ideas for a concordat between Germany and the Vatican, and discussed ways to bring a government to power in Berlin that would look favorable on such a concordat. As Hitler and the National Socialist Party grew more popular during the early 30s, Pope Pius VI and Cardinal Pacelli encouraged Kasch and the Center Party leadership to explore the advantages of cooperation with the Nazis. The Vatican was clearly working to help Hitler become Chancellor. The Vatican's meddling yielded results in January 1933, when Germany's governing coalition fell apart. Catholic Center Party Deputy Franz von Papen persuaded German President Paul von Hindenburg to grant Hitler the chancellorship of a nationalist Nazi Catholic coalition. Papen was to be vice chancellor. Hitler was chancellor, but he still didn't have the authority to pass the German Vatican Concordat that Pacelli wanted. That changed on March 23, 1933, when Hitler was given absolute power after parliamentarians in both the Reichstag and Reichsrat passed the Enabling Act. This act amended the Weimar Constitution to grant the German cabinet, which was under the totalitarian rule of Adolf Hitler, authority to enact laws without parliamentary approval. Unshackled from the German Constitution, Hitler was free to construct his Nazi empire. Hitler banned communists and many social democrats from voting on the Enabling Act. Still, he needed assistance, persuading the other parties and parliamentarians to vote yes. Thankfully for him, he had Ludwig Kasch, the leader of the German Catholic Center Party, a Catholic priest and a close friend of Cardinal Pacelli. On his side, Kasch persuaded parliamentarians from his own party and other parties to vote yes to the Enabling Act. On the day of the vote, this influential politician and Catholic priest even delivered a speech in the Reichstag endorsing the Enabling Act. Hitler also spoke that day in his message. He extolled the Catholic Church and underlined its importance in German history. There was evidence of a quid pro quo arrangement between Hitler and Kasch, an arrangement in which Kasch supported the Enabling Act and convinced others to support it, in order for favorable treatment from Hitler once he became dictator. How often do you hear people talking about this history today? The day after the Enabling Act was signed into law and Hitler was granted into dictatorial powers, Ludwig Kasch traveled to Rome. In his words, investigate the possibilities for a comprehensive understanding between church and state. His investigation was productive. Less than 4 months later, Nazi Germany formed a treaty, the first of the Third Reich, with the Vatican. Germany-Vatican Treaty. Cardinal Pacelli and German Vice Chancellor Franz von Papen signed the historic Reich Concordat on July 20, 1933. Less than 4 months after Hitler was officially granted the powers of a dictator. Notice what John told in Rome and Adolf Hitler considering this concordat. The church agreed to keep peace and religion out of politics, while Hitler, among other things, granted people freedom to confessional schools throughout the country. A notable victory for German Catholics. His Holiness welcomed Hitler's representative, Franz von Papen, most graciously, and remarked how pleased he was the German government now had its head, a man uncompromisingly opposed to communism and Russian nil in all its forms. History was repeating itself, just as it had done so many times in the past. The Vatican was supporting the creation of another tyrant in Europe. In return for its support, the Vatican would be protected from Hitler's tyranny and allowed to freely operate as it always had. The Vatican was so appreciative of being recognized as a full partner that it asked God to bless the Reich. Tolan wrote, on a more practical level, it ordered German bishops to swear allegiance to the National Socialist regime. The new oath concluded with these significant words, in the performance of my spiritual office and in my solitude for the welfare and interests of the German Reich, I will endeavor to avoid all detrimental acts which might endanger it. Reading this history, one wonders how successful Hitler's Nazi